Hi everybody, my name is Hannah Akamine. I am a junior this year and I'm a communications major and I'm also the current Asian and Pacific Islander Club president. So this April we're celebrating Asian and Pacific Islander Month and we have so many fun events planned for you guys, so many fun activities, and we also had the great opportunity to come on here to do My Story Matters and kind of share with you guys our stories and our experience being Asian American. So that's what I'm gonna kind of do today. So I am actually from out of state. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I grew up in a small town called King of Prussia. It's like 30 minutes outside of Philly. That's what I tell everybody because everybody knows what Philadelphia is. So that's where I was born and raised. I grew up in a house with my mom, my dad, and my younger sister. My mom is white, she's Italian and Irish, and my dad is 100% Okinawan, so I am half and half, a mixed kid. I'm also a pastor's kid, which sometimes I forget about, but it is part of who I am and my identity, and it definitely played a big role in how I grew up and the things that I was exposed to and was able to witness at a pretty young age. But I also think that's what kind of made me who I am today and kind of cultivated the compassion that I feel for a lot of different marginalized people groups. And that's also a big reason that I wanted to join APIC, but we'll get into that a little more later. So like I mentioned, I grew up in a small town, and Pennsylvania is not the most diverse state in the country, and I definitely realized that. I never really saw people who looked like me growing up. I was normally the only Asian, and I was made very aware of that very early on in my life. I remember a specific example, I think, where I was made aware of my differences was about second or third grade. I remember going to my white friend's house, and we were just hanging out, having a blast, and her cousin came over and asked her if I was her foreign exchange student. I just thought that was super weird because I never looked at myself that way, and I just thought foreign exchange students were people that were not from America. They were, from different countries, didn't speak the language, and for him to assume that that's what I was just based on my appearance was kind of confusing for me. And I think that it took a while for me to realize how insensitive and pretty racist that was, and that's something that I can reflect on now and look back on as one of the first times that I was made aware of my differences. So because there's not a huge Asian presence in Pennsylvania, a lot of my friends were pretty unfamiliar with a lot of aspects of Asian culture. So I remember getting made fun of for bringing my stinky lunches to school. If I'd bring sushi or some kind of noodles, I'd get made fun of for that. And I would ask my mom, Mom, I love it, it's so good, but please don't pack it, I'm embarrassed, just give me a sandwich or something. So I kind of felt like I had to repress that side of me and my Asian identity because I was honestly embarrassed by it, because the popular stereotype in Pennsylvania and just in general is that Asians are quiet and submissive and they don't take up much space, and I never really identified with that. I was always more outgoing and outspoken, so for me it was better to completely disassociate from that stereotype because I wanted people to know that that's not who I was. So I grew up pretty much resenting that side of myself and that part of my identity and resenting other Asians, and it was a lot easier to beat the people to the jokes and make them myself. So I grew up kind of making myself the punchline of a lot of Asian jokes, and again, looking back, it's so sad to see that that's what made me feel comfortable, and that's what I felt like I had to do to fit in. But I think that's a sad reality for a lot of other Asian Americans growing up and just feeling like they have to take back their identity by doing those kinds of things, and it's sad, and I just want to tell them you don't have to do that. Be proud of who you are, because that's what God's created us all differently for a reason. So I think that's another reason I wanted to join APIC, to just provide that space for people on campus to feel like they can be authentically 100% who they are and not worry about judgment, because this is a space to celebrate those aspects of your identity. So another aspect of my identity that I struggled with was just the whole concept of being mixed race. My mom, like I mentioned, is white and my dad is Asian. So growing up, it was really hard for me to find a place where I felt like I fit, because I was always too white for my Asian friends. I was pretty out of touch with my culture growing up in Pennsylvania. I didn't have much access to it, but it was also too Asian for my white friends, because while I fit more with them culturally, I didn't look like them, and it was pretty obvious, and I felt out of place in those settings. And I felt a lot of times that I was ignored, or my presence was kind of minimized, and I think that contributed to a lot of my self-esteem issues growing up. I remember I was pretty insecure, and it took a while for me to find that confidence and to be comfortable taking up space, because I think a lot of Asians in America are told that we can't take up space. So it's easier to kind of step back and be okay with that, whereas I think it's important for us to realize that we should be taking up as much space as we want, just as much as any other people group in America. So because of all the things that I went through growing up, and just resenting my Asian identity and resenting other Asians, I was very out of touch with my culture, and I was okay with that. I didn't really see an issue with that. I didn't really consider myself Asian. I was just Hannah, and I think that was okay with me, but I always felt this kind of discomfort and this weird tension that I could never really articulate or pinpoint until more recently, actually. In 2020, as you all know, the pandemic was very present, and a major issue during that time was the rise in Asian hate crimes. So during that time, a lot of people were blaming Asian Americans for the presence of coronavirus, and that was fueled by a lot of notable political leaders saying extremely insensitive and disrespectful things, such as the China virus or the Kung flu. And while anyone could argue that those were jokes, they're jokes until they're not. It's funny until it's not, and people start getting hurt and violence starts to happen. And it was happening. There were so many Asian Americans that were being brutalized on the streets by complete strangers for no other reason than that they were Asian. And that was just really hard to see. It was hard to watch the news every single day and see people that looked like my grandma, that looked like my dad, that looked like me, getting just beaten up and bloodied and killed for just existing and for taking up space and being Asian. And it was really heartbreaking. And I remember a specific case that was really hard for me. There was a young woman. She was about my age. I'm 21, so she was around that age. And she was robbed and beaten up in like a drive-by situation, and she was dragged by the car for a good distance. And of course, she was extremely injured. And I just remember hearing that story on my way to work and getting to work and just crying, because it was so hard for me to see that, to see people that looked like me being treated that way, and to just be inundated with these stories and really see no solution and to see no end in sight. And it just really made me want to act. I wanted to do something. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how, because I don't have that platform to make any of these huge changes that I wanted to see. So I was really frustrated too, because I felt like I needed to be doing something, but I didn't know what. Another thing that taught me was the importance of empathy, and I think it really opened my eyes to the experiences of Black Americans as well. I always supported the Black Lives Matter movement, But I think it took this kind of experience for me to really feel maybe a portion of the heartbreak that they face on a daily basis of years of systemic oppression and racism. And my experience with Asian hate crimes really just moved me in a way that helped me to better empathize with the Black experience. And I think that that's so important, and I think empathy is what can really help to solve a lot of these problems, that if we're able to step outside of our experience and not necessarily have to have an experience to be able to listen and to be able to hear and just cry with our brothers and sisters who are hurting, I think that could really put us in a direction that would really bring us to a lot of change. So that's something that I really took away from all of those Asian hate crimes that were going on. Feeling hopeless and helpless, I just really wanted to do something, and I was praying daily, God, what can I do? Like, give me an outlet, like give me some kind of opportunity to make a difference and to help other Asian Americans that are feeling just as invalidated and unheard as I'm feeling right now. And I thought it was really funny because I actually reached out to the past APIC president, which was Lance, and I just DM'd him on Instagram, and I asked if there's anything that I could do to help the club, do any kind of social media work, anything that he needed. And he told me that he was, his term was coming to an end and that they were looking to hire the next APIC president. And I had never considered student leadership. I never thought I would be doing student leadership or be as involved as I am right now. And I was kind of apprehensive, but I was like, okay, I'll apply. I mean, why not? The opportunity's here. I'll give it a shot. So I ended up applying, and I talked to Della Reese, which is the director of diversity and inclusion on campus, and she's also my boss for the intercultural student programs. And we just talked during our interview, and I got so excited about all the possibilities of the things that we could be doing on campus. And she offered me the job, and I took it. I was so excited. The whole summer, I was just so ready to get on campus and to start getting to work and start having events and meeting other Asian students and giving back in the way that I was really wanting to during the Asian hate crimes happening. And then as we got closer, I was getting increasingly more nervous. I was having a lot of imposter syndrome. I was really doubting myself and my worth and my questioning, am I Asian enough to do this? You know, I am just now becoming aware of my racial identity and getting more in touch with my culture. Like, am I qualified enough to be the advocate for Asian American students? And I didn't think I was, because I felt like I didn't have the qualifications to do that. And I wanted to read all these books and get educated on all of these Asian cultures and stuff like that. And I feel like God was really speaking to me in that moment and just kind of giving me peace in the fact that if I just follow his calling on my life, everything else will just come into place. So there's nothing that I had to do or had to become. I just had to follow God, and he would make everything work out. So that really brought me a lot of peace. So I got to campus, and it was kind of a whirlwind after being cooped up in a house for months and months on end. It was so weird to get back on campus and see all of these people, and it was kind of exhausting. My social battery was definitely not charged, and it was kind of hard to get back into the swing of like semi-normalcy. But after my first event, we had a Make Your Own Musubi night. It was so fun. I met so many great people, made so many awesome connections, and it's honestly been one of the best things that I think I've ever done in my life, being a part of APIC and just meeting these people and being able to provide a space for other Asian students to just feel validated and seen and comfortable with their identities. it's been so moving to provide that for people, but I also feel like I'm nurturing little Hannah, who never really got to have that experience with her culture and never got to have that space to just celebrate who I was. And I think being in this position now, I'm really getting to pour into that side of myself. And I can't even describe how moved I am to be able to experience that. So it's just been amazing to be a part of APIC. I'm so passionate about it, and I'm really just doing it for other people that might not have gotten that experience with their culture like I did. So if you're watching this and you can relate to that, please come to our events. I want to see you there. I want to talk to you. I want to make those connections. I've made some awesome connections with some of the girls on my cabinet. We all met through APIC events and just communicating back and forth, and they've expressed that they wanted to be in leadership and they wanted to help out, and they've gotten to do that, and it's been so great. I literally couldn't have done any of the events that we're being able to pull off without them. They're so amazing. I'm so grateful for them, and hopefully you guys are going to be hearing from them in the next couple of weeks. We're trying to get them to come do a My Story Matters as well, so you guys will get to see them. But yeah, it's just been an awesome time. I'm really grateful for ISP and for this position, and for getting to come and talk to you guys here like this. I think it's really important to amplify Asian voices, especially during our month. So again, you guys should come to all of our events that we have going on, even if you're not Asian. I think it's so important to really to experience other cultures that are not familiar to you, and even if it's not something that you can necessarily relate to, definitely come check it out. You can really increase your scope of understanding, and your heart will just grow when you can see other people's cultures and the way that they love their cultures and celebrate their cultures. And we'd also love to hear from you. Let's talk about that and find differences and similarities, and it's just a great time to do that. So if you could take away anything from my time speaking here, I would hope that it would be a bit of a better understanding of the Asian American experience, as my story is similar to so many other Asian Americans. So I hope that you kind of just get a bit of a better picture of that, and that can maybe help to inform your interactions with other Asian students, and maybe you can find similarities within your own culture. But another takeaway I'd love for you guys to have is just how important words are, and especially we're seeing that during a time of a lot of social injustice and societal unrest, and during the hate crimes, how important words are and how important it is to just be mindful of the effect that it can have on other people. And your words also have the power to build people up. You can make connections with people that you never thought you could have before, and just really step outside of yourself and practice empathy. And I think that's what God is calling us to do, and I feel that's what God called me to do, especially during this time. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed my time here. I know I did. But yeah, definitely look out for all of our events coming in the future, and follow us at APICVU on Instagram. Sorry, shameless plug, but we have all of our events posted there, and I hope to see you guys soon. So thank you. Bye.